Hello, everyone. Very good afternoon, very good morning, very good evening to the various people who have joined us from different parts of the world. So, I humbly welcome everyone. Very good afternoon, very good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us on this weekend. We have the topic today is research ethics and plagiarism checking and removal. We'll also see upon that. So this webinar, as you all know, that has been coordinated by research graduate, and I am Dr. Renu Mishra, and I'm currently based in Melbourne, Australia. So I have an experience of teaching management, graduate, postgraduate, and doctoral students for around 12 to 14 years. And let me tell you about Research Graduate, the one stop solution of research queries, wherein you can consult our team for topic selection, for proposal writing, for review paper writing. So any doubts, any roadblocks, if you have any point in time during your research, during your thesis writing, please feel free to get back to research graduate. Now when it times to come to get in touch with us, so you can get in touch with the help of this email id. You can browse us on the website, that is researchgraduate.com. Also the number is given on your screens. All right, now let me just tell you about this webinar. This webinar will about 90 minutes or so. As you all know, that we'll be covering every point in detail, followed by 30 minutes of the Q&A session. Now when you say 30 minutes of Q&A session, we do not stick to the time when we are answering the questions. We may stretch beyond that also. Just be rest assured that each one of your query will be catered upon. And as far as the certificates, the PPTs, the recordings are concerned, so be rest assured that you'll be all getting all this, the PPT, the recording, and the certificates on your registered email ID. Now, here the catch is that please ensure that you're registered with the right email ID, which you often use. I mean, which you are using for your professional uses and all that. Plus, one very important thing that please increase your video quality to 720p on YouTube, and special consideration for those who have joined us from phone. So, many a time you may experience a glitch while you are logging in from phone. I mean, the screen is small, so then you guys end up complaining that screen is not clear, blur, and all that stuff. Even if it's so, just listen to me what I'm saying, because PPT in any which ways you'll be getting in your inbox. All right. Now another thing related to question and answer is that I would request, or I would appreciate, do not mark your questions during the webinar, because I'll not be catering them between the session. Reason being, because answering the questions unnecessarily, will delay the important discussion on the topics. Plus, many a times we get distracted from what we are discussing. So just take a note of your questions on your notepad. We'll be catering to them all by the end of the webinar. Okay. All right. So now it's time for us to start with the webinar. Now, while you all know that, let me just show you the title once again, that you all know that we're talking about research ethics, plagiarism, checking, and removal. So, firstly, I'll start with research ethics. Okay. See, as I just told you, that slide is not clear. The very first comment came, the slide is not clear. If the slides are not clear, I request you to kindly log in from your desktop or your laptops. Okay. I'm sure that you must be from a phone, and if not, please increase your view quality of video on YouTube by 720p. Okay, beyond this, I will not cater this query of slide is not clear. Okay, because at my end, I did the best what I could. So, requesting you all to follow the instructions for the video quality. Now, coming back to the discussions which we are starting with, that is research ethics. Now, when you talk about research ethics, the first word ethics you need to very clearly understand. In general, also, all those academicians here who are from management background, social sciences background, um, they must be very clear about, or any studies which let them to understand society and its underpinning areas. So they must be having an idea about ethics, any guideline principles which tells you what is right and what is wrong. Okay, now when you talk about research ethics, these days, as of now, they are highly in the talk of the town of the research. Why? Because generally, with the onset of a lot of AI tools, which also be discussing about it, I'll be taking a hint of it by the end of this session. A lot of research ethics are being violated. Second thing, the thrust of publishing more and more people. I was talking to one of my colleague, or one of my colleague actually, just around the new year, that the 2024 has started, and we need to touch the benchmark of, or touch the standard line of publishing at least 2 to 3 papers in a year. This thing actually led you to violate research ethics. Okay, now when we talk about research ethics, we generally talk about that, we should, the vague idea what we have is we should not copy, or it should be original work, and rest is all good to go. That is right, but what exactly research ethics are, and many academicians also are here, which they also should tell, which they also should communicate to their students, that when you talk about research ethics, they are basically those guidelines, right? I'll probably not tell you the definition of it, because that's, all of you, I'm sure that all of you are from the education background, you understand what is the concept of ethics. But when you talk about research ethics are basically those norms, those, in simple language I'll tell you, or those rules and regulations according to which you need to publish your research. Before that, you need to work on your research. Those guidelines, those rules and regulations, which is mandatory, or which are mandatory for you all to follow during your research practice. I'm saying in research practice also. So while you are conducting your research, please make sure that, even if your students, like we have many academicians here, even if you have your students following any other unethical practices, like they are just bluffing around the data what they have, which students majority of the time they do, just catch it. Okay, it's not only that the publication get delayed, because it's very easy to catch any such publication, but also the integrity of the researcher and your name as a supervisor gets violated when you are engulfed in any such kind of research. Okay, so please follow these research ethics guidelines, policies, like all these, that do not get into plagiarism, do not copy somebody else's work, give proper acknowledgements, and don't bifurcate the data, don't slice the data, all these basics one. Okay, also, you should give, so when you are writing any research, you should give appropriate information. I was reviewing a paper a couple of days back, right? Rather last year, I should say. The paper was a review paper, literature based review paper, and it came to review to me, and it was, when you say review paper, it's supposed to be a in-depth paper. You're supposed to provide all the related maximum information when you are furnishing a research paper on a literature based theme. But that paper, particularly, which I found, in my opinion, was touch and go. So when I say touch and go, what I mean is, what kind of paper I say touch and go is, you just touch the concept, do not get into deep depth of it, just came back and started talking about something else. Just do not follow this touch and go, because this is again also, you're not going around the research ethics. Okay, now, so, when you talk about research ethics in terms, if I tell you that, how can you um, define research ethics in different concepts? So it's basically, just be honest with your work, just being maintaining privacy of your respondents. Yeah, exactly. Just make sure that, one thing here I would like to get in for everyone, whenever you or anyone's student, you or your students are taking any interviews or surveys probably, which they are large in number, probably they are not taking any confidential information of these respondents, particularly for the interviews. Do not disclose the identity of the respondents unless and until you take the permission. One thing. Second thing is, I have seen this thing. Why? That's why I'm taking this thing into this discussion. Just give me a minute. So I have seen this thing quite happening, that when you talk about any organization in your research, many students are aware, must be aware, especially the ones who are pursuing their research. But I have seen in them also that you do not take the permission letter from the organization to publish its name. Now, there are two things. Understand. You're collecting the data from that organization, that permission is given to you. Okay. But you can use the data of that organization with its original name. That permission should also be taken. Like, for example, when I worked on my thesis a decade back, more than that, it was on healthcare. Okay. I worked with a couple of hospitals. Now, I was allowed to take data, interview their employees from the hospitals, respective hospitals, but they did not allow me to publish the name of that entities in my research. So this kind of privacy also should be respected, either if it's your respondents or your organization. Okay, please follow all the confidentiality, whatever, wherever is possibility, dignity in terms of your language, in terms of your research, all it should be. Plus, if you are, let's say, working on a social cause, or probably your research is something which is aimed to contribute towards society and its upliftment, please make sure that you do appropriate justice. Okay. Now, here, justice, what I also meant to tell you is that these days, particularly these days, in this era specifically, I hope my fellow colleagues on this webinar would agree me saying that researchers have bound their approach to get new knowledge and information just from Google. Gone are the days when the hardbound journals or the hardbound notebooks used to be served, or students used to visit libraries and they used to read the journals, physical copy of the journals. Now, whatever is available on Google, I'll just say Google. I'm not naming any particular site. Wherever, whatever is available on Google has in the open access information, wherein you do not need any subscription. That has become the source of your research. I mean, when I'm saying this, many of you, I'm sure, amongst us, are following this trend that whatever is available, okay, fine, you need to write a paper, let's open Google. And many, they even start which topic to be chosen for research paper. We start like that also. So, this kind of justice, this kind of injustice in research should be plainly avoided. Okay, if you don't have any research topic, get an expert advice or follow your interest. Somebody is from finance, somebody is very keenly in understanding the role of AI in supply chain, somebody is very interested in understanding the post COVID demographical change in customers of particular reason. So, when you have this kind of topic in mind, you know, this gives the justice. Then you are following your research ethics. Picking up something anywhere is not your, what you're violating research ethics. Okay. All right. Now, when you are talking about academic writing, any piece of writing, any piece of work which is falling into the category of either report writing or review paper writing or research paper writing or your thesis or your MPhil work falls into the category of academic writing. Okay, so any writing which you are doing for the purpose of academics. All right, now when you talk about academic writing ethics, you always have been given a set of outline guidelines that this should be followed when you are submitting your work. Please follow that. Okay, plus whenever you are writing a report for the academic purpose, okay, then in that case make sure that my report will be read by somebody else. So your information, this is actually an ethic. This is an ethic when you are writing academic writing. Make sure that the structure of the report, the way you put in the information, should be easily understandable by others. Okay, it's not like that randomly you are picking your subtopics. Please. Okay, second thing, whatever data, whatever primary data, that I say actual research perform. Okay, if you have conducted your primary data is that data which you collect yourself. Whatever you have, collected, whatever research you have performed, that actually should be presented in its original form and truthful. There should be no uh, you know what do you say, that slicing of that data. What is, there should be no bluffing in that data. Okay, last but not the least, on the slide particularly, that there should be no plagiarism. Okay, plagiarism will also talk in length in the later half of the this session. Plagiarism should be avoided. This is one of the very important academic writing ethics. Second thing, which is a common concern these days, which definitely falls into the category of ethic violation when it comes to academic writing facade, that the language has become very casual. Now, somebody just in the chat box said that when the topic will start, whosoever is this topic is actually running in. Now, this kind of, when you are attending, this is actually also falls into the category of ethic. That's why I put up this chat, that whenever you are attending any professional um, seminar or workshop, there should be a appropriate way of commenting. Similarly, when you are writing anything into account for the academic purpose, your language should reflect the research terminologies, irrespective of the domain you are following into, irrespective of the topic you're writing into. Your language now, in today's times, the kind of language we use on our WhatsApp messages, it reflects into our writing as well, into general professional and academic purposes also. Please avoid that. Okay, all right, moving on further, couple of tips when you are moving ahead for academic writing ethics. Plagiarism is a crime, actually. I just simply should put it like that. Plagiarism should not be committed. It's a big no. I mean, we sometime intentionally and sometime unintentionally, but we end up plagiarized our content. Please don't do that. Second thing, your report. Again, when I say report, what I meant to say, any form of academic writing work should be accurate. If your result is 25.67, write it like that. Do not make it 26 unless and until your supervisor says so, that your data can accommodate rounding off the figures. Now understand, 25.6, you can round off to 26 as well. Okay, but depends upon the nature of your research. If your research demands your results to be accurate till the second decimal as well, please write it 25.67 is only. Before making any changes into your statistical results, particularly I'm saying, please consult your supervisor, because every research has its own parameters wherein you can play upon with the numbers. So your report should be accurate and unbiased. Now, when I say unbiased, please pay attention here. What I mean by unbiased is, you have taken somebody's interview. Okay, fine. Now you're translating that transcript of interviews into your research. Let's say you are doing narrative analysis. Now, when you are doing narrative analysis, what do you do in narrative analysis is, You do a narration of the responses of the interviewees. Now, what happened is that somewhere or the other, many a times you even don't, do it intentionally, but your own point of view, either favoring that person or against that person, you end up reflecting into it. You end up writing into it. Don't. Please don't. You have to present your research based on the data collected as it is. So there should be an input, you being a researcher, towards the conducting that research. What kind of test it should be, what kind of data analysis would be, how will be structured and everything. But when you talk about the data should be unbiased. Data should not be molded as per the researcher's point of view. Please make sure, if you're doing so, you're doing academic writing ethics. And when that kind of paper comes to people like us, those who are reviewing the paper, we easily get to know it. Plus, maintaining patient confidentiality. Patient here is respondent as well, which I just discussed. Please do not discuss, because if you are revealing any respondents or patient as in terms of, because many of our audiences is from science background as well. If you are revealing anybody's identity without his or her consent, it is not only academic writing violation, the person can sue you as well. Please, so okay. Not write too many papers from a research study. Now here it is actually one thing which is very clear, that let's say I want to talk about historical development of, or historical evolution of mankind. Okay. Now what I do is that I have found one paper which is very good, or probably one dissertation which is very good and very fantabulously written. I would try to recreate more and more papers out of that. Don't do that, because that's an academic writing violation. Also, you will be reflecting one particular way of your research into all your papers, because all these are being coming across from one common study, so-called salami publications. Please don't do that. Repeating so many papers from one. Okay. Also, not failing to actually write up and publish a peer review journal paper about a completed study. Okay. So when you have completely done a study, your research is done, or probably you have conducted the data, translating that into a paper is important. Data is collected, everything is done, but unless and until it is translated into a paper, it is not complete. Okay. Now here, before I start into plagiarism, one thing I would like to say, I have seen it, because this is something which can be discussed with you during this webinar, that this trend I have seen, or many of my colleagues also agree, that we collect the data. Okay. Now that data probably has been collected a year back, or probably 6 months back, something like that. And because of some unforeseen reasons, we end up not writing that paper using that particular data. But when we start writing again, or when we decide to work on that data, we do not look into that data, that whether it needs any changes or not. All of you who are doing such things, any one of you, please comment in the chat box, that have it ever happened with you that once collected data you would like to recreate in a research paper or a review paper, but you do not check the how much that data is valid in the current context. It must have happened with you. Also, this happens is that whenever during the course of our PhD research, now PhD is not that strictly time bound activity. It takes somewhere 3 years minimum, 3 years at least, 4 years, 6 years, right? Now, in that case, what happened is probably maybe you have done the data collection in the initial half of the PhD, and you say that, once I'm done with the data, or literature review, I'll just work on the data later on. So writing and everything will happen later. Whenever you do this also in your research, please check whether is there any major trend change in the trend of the data I have collected also in the literature. Okay. Although it is advisable to work on the recent literature, that is 10 to 12 years, but if you need to work on little older literature, please check whether or not your literature has undergone any major shift. Okay, so I hope all of you got what I meant to say here. Doing all this also, you're violating your ethics, because it's all about how unbiased, accurate. See, academic writing ethics or research ethics is all about how unbiased, how accurate research you are presenting. All right. Now, coming to the hero of this webinar, that is plagiarism. I am sure that plagiarism is one term which we all know. I'm not commenting on whether we have complete understanding about plagiarism or not, because when I was also a student in my masters, we were supposed to develop a research project, but we heard about plagiarism term, we never knew about it. I mean, in depth. What I meant to say, we never knew about what is plagiarism. Do not copy. That's what only we got to know, or we had the knowledge about. But plagiarism is much more than that. In this session, we will see that what exactly plagiarism is, how many types of plagiarism are, and so many. Just give me a minute. All right. So, when you talk about plagiarism is firstly copying somebody's original idea, language, expressions, and posing it into yours own. Somebody else's work, pouring into your own. This is actually considered to be a major violation of ethics and academic integrity. Okay, when you are knowingly, unknowingly get trapped into plagiarism, your work actually can get confiscated. You definitely will not be able to publish that work. And many journals, if they find too much of plagiarism in your research paper, they they actually, I should not say that, but yes, they kind of blacklist you for for further publication for a couple of months or so. Okay, so yes, it is an offense. Plagiarism, it is an offense. Now, although it is a offense, but how to get rid of it? How can we avoid it? Because when we are doing research, we are supposed to get into in depth of it. So many things around it, so many papers are around it. How can we ensure that we are on the right track? Before that, let's develop our understanding on plagiarism a little more. I will make you understand in very simple language. When you talk about plagiarism, it is basically when you are using someone else's language, someone else's idea, someone else's material. Okay, but we are not acknowledging the source. Okay, in couple of, or in some types of plagiarism, we do acknowledge the source, but we are copying as it is. Now let's answer some questions. Is it plagiarism if I copy the content but cite the source? Now understand. Is it plagiarism if I copy the content but cite the source? Now, here the catch is I'm citing the source but I'm copying the content. Somebody said no, but the answer is yes, it is plagiarism. Okay, now I will make you understand. Copying here I'm taking that you have completely taken the source as it is, content. Now you did not paid attention toward the copy. Okay, you can only copy the content. Listen to me again. You can only copy the content as it is if it's a definition or it is a quote. Quote as in somebody said something. Okay. If it's a definition, do not make a change in it. Water cycle is a process wherein water gets changed into three sources. It's a definition. Do not introduce any change in it. You may copy as it is. A quote. Some famous author said something. Some novelist said something. Do not change. Just quote it. However, in order to avoid high plagiarism, do not involve or do not take too many definitions and too many quotations in your work, because you can't change definitions, you can't paraphrase quotes, so they will reflect into plagiarism. So yes, if you copy somebody's content, even if you cite the source, it is plagiarism. Okay, now the next question is it plagiarism if I copy my own content? Now here, what I meant saying own content means, if I have written my paper in past and probably on the same theme, I'm writing on another paper and there is something useful in my paper written previously which I can make use in my current paper. So will it be plagiarism if I'm taking content from my own paper? Yes, somebody says self plagiarism. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Even if you are taking your own content published in some previous paper, it's fall into the category of plagiarism, and the type is self plagiarism. Okay, so if you want to take the content from your own paper written previously, also you need to follow the rule of paraphrase or rephrase plus citation should be quoted. Last question, is it plagiarism if I substitute few words? I mean, I have taken the content, I want to use it into my own, but directly copying it, I'm just, you know, I'm not exactly copying it, using the synonym. Is it plagiarism? Yes, it is plagiarism. Basically, you are just removing couple of words. So here, see, citation is must. Citation, there is no, when you are adapting some work, I'm not, always use the word adapting. Do not say copy ever. Copying means exactly same it is. Adapting means you are reflecting the idea of the author, but in your own language. Okay. So citation is a must. Citation is not at all compromised at any cost. Here you are taking the content but just using the synonym of it. Language is same. Okay. High, instead of high, author has written high, you said raise. Rest of the language is same. Yes, it is plagiarism. Okay. I hope now the concept of plagiarism is pretty much clear. Couple of facts I would like to tell you about plagiarism, and that is, um, people say that plagiarism is harmless. No, indeed it is. You know, if you do it unintentionally, it is not wrong. How would I, as a reviewer, would know that you did it unintentionally and intentionally? It is wrong. If you review, it's not plagiarism. Review as in, if you read it again, yes, it is plagiarism. You don't have to cite your own work. Yes, you have to cite your own work. And plagiarism is all about how much you plagiarize. Now, here it is a catch, but I would like to particularly give attention to that many universities or many colleges that they give you a certain percentage of plagiarism to be allowed in your work. Okay, now let's say these days, because here in, like we talk about, I was there in Dubai previously, now in Melbourne, we do check the plagiarism of the assignments submitted by the students. Okay, and here in Melbourne we do check the AI plagiarism as well. So, but in terms of assessments or assignments, when we say, we give them a margin of 5 to 7% of plagiarism is allowed. So if your work is falling into the category of 7% or 5% plagiarism, good to go. Beyond that, it's not allowed. No, so it's not like that. Whatever work is coming into the category of 7% plagiarism, it's not plagiarism. It is plagiarism. Okay, it is plagiarism. So it's not about how much you do plagiarism. It is, only you can say that it is plagiarized or not. No, it depends upon how much limit has been given by your educational institution. Many a place it is 5%, 7%. Some mediocre institutes, they also say that, okay, fine, 18%, 15%. But in PhD thesis, this percentage gets low as 2 or 3%. Okay. Now, some true points about plagiarism is definitely it is, the violation of your academic integrity. Complete responsibility is on the author. Complete. Okay. Self plagiarism also requires citation. And like I said, amount doesn't matter. So, your institute had said 5% plagiarism is allowed. But whatever has come into the 5% radar, it is plagiarism. Okay. All right. Now, why do we need to be concerned about plagiarism? I think it's clear till now that your honesty. Okay. Mm, in us as in the academic professionals like us, we consider it as a cheating. Okay, and obviously if you're taking somebody else's credit, if it's happens with you, what will happen to your thought process at that point in time? And obviously many organizations, educational organization, they consider it as an offense. Like for example, I know a couple of institutions where high plagiarism is actually falls under the category of academic misconduct, where the teachers are supposed to generate a report against the student, and he or she has been given a chance of, let's say, a couple of days to prove his or her innocence as in he needs to give proper appropriate evidences of the work. If that work is not following into the level of plagiarized work is permissible. Beyond that, definitely. Okay. Now comes a very important part of this webinar, that is types of plagiarism. So we'll take now here, please understand one by each one of you very in detail, because we'll take one by one types of plagiarism, then we'll take couple of examples as well. So once the types of plagiarism are done, we'll take couple of examples after that. Okay. Now first is deliberate plagiarism. I'm sure that the name says it all. Deliberate, basically, it's a very common one, and generally student as master's level or bachelor's level who are supposed to complete their end course project, or probably even academic professionals as well, when any one of you, or like probably anyone is into the hurry of submitting any paper, or let's say the college has asked us to give a publication in order to give you promotion or something like that, we end up doing this deliberate plagiarism. Okay, so understand what is it. It's very common one. It's very simple is then when we are attempting somebody else's work and reflecting is at as our own. Okay, so if let's say if you have your friend says that I know somebody who can write a paper for you. So now see, understand, if any unprofessional person you have given your paper to write, you don't know the amount of intellect that person has, amount of knowledge that person has for your domain. He or she will write as in whatever is available on internet. Professional support is okay, but getting on somebody who we don't know that what kind of intellect in depth he or she has, right? So in that case, the person will end up copying the content from sources. Okay. Also, you took the content thinking that okay, citation is not necessary, or you forget to do it, whatsoever is the reason is deliberate plagiarism. Okay. Also, you have taken the work from couple of sources without knowing. Like I said, when I was starting the discussion, that these days what is happening is that instead of visiting library, instead of going to the physical sources of information, we are relying more on Google. That is how we are increasing deliberate plagiarism. Okay. So many a times, you don't get to, let's say you write some article, the content published in the article. What do? You take the content, there is no author mention, you just take the content. Deliberate plagiarism. Okay. Now I would appreciate that if any one of you has committed such kind of plagiarism, and do not tell on the chat box, but just recall that yes, I did that. This way what happen is you'll be able to categorize firstly the events when plagiarism happened intentionally, unintentionally, I'm not bothered about that, or the type of plagiarism you encountered with. Okay. Now second is patchwork. Now again, one tip before I go into the patchwork plagiarism is that try to understand with the term. Try to understand the meaning with the term, like patchwork. Patchwork is when you take patches. It happens, no? When in the dresses also there are too many patches pasted. Similarly, patchwork plagiarism it involves when you take some words from different sources, couple of ideas from different sources, and together you merge them to make one content. Okay. And what happen is you take these words, these idea from multiple sources, and to all of them you make one work and give one author's name. Probably, let's say, Mark Genley was the last author you studied, and the entire work, okay, entire work you give the citation of his name. All right. So that is patchwork. Like, you have taken the ideas from the words from different sources. Patchwork plagiarism is that. Or multiple sources you have taken the data for, or you have presented it as your own. Okay. All right. Now, another one is bluffing. Bluffing, all those who understand Hindi, bluff means झूठ बोलना. Okay. या फ्लूक करना, तुक्का लगाना, right? All those for those who understand Hindi. Coming back to English. When you are not sure of the facts yourself. Okay. Now, when you talk about bluffing plagiarism, basically, it is it is a mixture of deliberate and patchwork. You are taking some sources, you are taking the content from some sources, you are noting down the key ideas. Okay, two different sources. Now understand, work from two different sources, combining them together without knowing whether they are related or not. Why this is happening very often these days is because there is a lot of information. A lot of information is presented. When I say Google, you rely more on Google. Why? Because there is ample of information is related, but this information is short lived. Majority of the information is short lived. When I say short lived is because it is going a lot of changes on a daily basis. Okay. So w- it may appear, probably you come across two papers whose title are same, probably in the same as in from the same domain, but the work inside it is different. But you don't bother about that. You take information from that, you take information of that, and relate them together. That what is happening. Too much of information available without checking its authenticity, or probably without checking the relatedness of the information, you present it on your own, or probably you relate them together. Okay, so this is what is happening in bluffing plagiarism. Now, all this plagiarism, even more what you'll come across, they are kind of overlapping. Plagiarism is plagiarism, so different categories of it lay like overlapping. So just understand that thin line between all of them. Okay, all right. Next is your paraphrasing. Now, paraphrasing basically is actually a way also to avoid plagiarism, and it is a kind of plagiarism also. Now I'm telling you the kind of plagiarism also. Now here what you are doing is you are just substituting couple of words, rest of the statement is same. Okay, now I am going to the hospital, I am visiting to the hospital, entire statement is same both. Going, instead of going you said visiting. Okay, now what the major misconception is this, that students end up think that we have changed the word, how is it plagiarism? Now the catch here is that merely changing the words will not avoid plagiarism. We have to paraphrase the entire work. Okay, all right. Next is patchwork paraphrasing, which we have already discussed. Then come mosaic plagiarism. Now mosaic plagiarism is basically, here the difference is you are substituting the word but presenting it as your own. Paraphrasing and mosaic plagiarism has this difference, that in paraphrasing plagiarism you are substituting the word with the author name only. Mosaic plagiarism, substituting the word with your own. Okay, all right. Accidental plagiarism. Accidental plagiarism is when basically Shakespeare said that what's there in the name, but you do not cite that source, or you forgot to do so. So unintentionally you credit that word to somebody else. Now, this happens when you do not take a note of your sources while you are reviewing the literature. I'll do it later. I'll write my entire referencing later. I'll do my entire citations later. No. This happens very clearly when you are not taking a complete what do you say that note of your references. So accidental plagiarism happens when you don't know who said this. Okay, let me just add it to this author. Then happens accidental plagiarism. So please make a note of your all your sources. Inaccurate authorships. Now, inaccurate authorship is like, this is very important. This is important not only for the citations purpose, this is important for the ones who are actually in the process of research writing and doing it with the fellow colleagues. Always make sure that who is the first author, who is the second author, who is the third author. And this first, second, third, we decide on the basis of the contribution of that author. Okay, this is the setting of the authors who are writing the work. Now, here inaccurate authorship, when you present the authors into a wrong orders. Okay, or you do not write other authors, you just end up writing one. So, but there was a contribution of other authors as well, right? So inaccurate authorship is basically happening when in those incidences when there are more than two or three authors. Also, this is basically for the people who are actually writing for they actually writing and doing it with their fellow colleagues, more than two or three. Please, when you are probably starting the work or probably in the middle of the work, please decide the sequence of your authorship. Who will be the first author, who is the second one, who is the third one, and who is the corresponding addendum. Corresponding author means to whom all the correspondence from the journal or from the other publication sources will be made. Okay, this should be decided well in time. Okay, next is self plagiarism, which all of you know that when you're copying your own work. Okay, now contributing author plagiarism. Basically, contributing author plagiarism is when you do not credit an author or the editor whose work is being contributed. That means, for example, I am not the author of the work, but I'm the editor. My contribution is there in the editing. Okay, let's say you or your fellow colleague is waiting or the is working on a project together. You need to give credit to your fellow colleague. If you have conducted the research or collected the data, that person must be outlined the paper. Okay, or if somebody is you have given the work, let's say for example you are three authors, one is actually combining all the work together, but that person edit your work and make significant changes in that without informing you, without crediting you, so that he or she present that I did certain changes, so I'm the main contributor. That's plagiarism. Basically, this all is violation of the research ethics, academic writing ethics. Okay, all right. Next is aggregated plagiarism. No, aggregated plagiarism basically um, is something when you say that plagiarism is copy. So it is not always that when you have copied the entire content of a study. No. But if let's say you have taken a paper for a reference and you're working as per ditto like that, same references, same idea, same concepts, aggregated plagiarism. So the uniqueness of the paper is lost. You are just rewriting somebody else's work. Okay? All right. That's aggregated plagiarism. Then outline plagiarism. Outline plagiarism is very simple. The name itself says you are simply following the same outline as somebody else's work. The opening statements are same, the closing conclusions are same, the closing statements of introductions are same. It's absolutely same like another paper. See, adopting somebody's style is okay, but copying somebody's style is not okay. Adopting means that the language is probably reflecting in it, you know or the way the author presents his or her findings, you are trying to present the same way your findings. That's okay, but taking the entire work is not okay. Bibliography plagiarism is when you are taking somebody else's bibliography. Okay, it's very clear. So extended, even in that case, what happens is you end up using the bibliography or the sources which you have not even used, and it happens. What happens is many a times, like when we review the paper, we go to the bibliography. So whatever sources mentioned there should reflect into the main paper. Obviously, they're not. Bibliography plagiarism, and students generally don't realize this fact. They end up just to extend their bibliography, just to add more number of sources, they end up doing it. Okay, now we'll take the couple of examples of plagiarism. So first is deliberate plagiarism. So you can see the sources, the main source, the original work is here. Like, for instance, I'll just read a couple of lines that these islands were the home of millions of happy birds, the resort of 100 times more million of fishes, and so on. Now, this exactly same language is being used. There is no change. Okay, so this is called as deliberate plagiarism. Okay, so when we'll talk about patchwork plagiarism, whereas couple of ideas you have taken. So this is Article 1. It is mainly about the theme of industrialization. Okay, and how industrialization involves the reorganization of economy. So mainly the theme of Article A is industrialization. Now, when you talk about Article B, it is basically most pre-industrial economies has standards of not living much above subsistence, like how the economies were there before pre-industrialization. So basically the theme of both the articles is on industrialization. Now, how this patchwork plagiarism has happened, that couple of lines from one article, couple of lines from two article, and that presenting it as one. So it is not copied from one source, but adapted from or copied from couple of sources. That's patchwork. Now here, paraphrasing. Now when you talk about paraphrasing, when you talk about plagiarism, would have been happened when these underline words, only these, this one, and this one, would have been changed, and rest of the statement should have is run completely like this. Now somebody asked me in the chat that then how to write, if there should be no plagiarism, how to write. The writing should be like this. If you read both the examples here, original text is this. Words have been changed definitely, but not only words have been changed, the structure also is changed of the statement, keeping the content meaning same. Now here, please understand to me very clearly. When you are paraphrasing a sentence, when I'm saying paraphrasing, I'm saying not just using the synonym of the words, which is paraphrasing plagiarism means. Paraphrasing is a way also to rephrase or paraphrase is the way to avoid plagiarism, wherein you do not alter the meaning of the content but change the structure of it. Okay, so if you see in both the examples, the meaning, if you read this statement, whatever meaning you'll come across, you'll come the same meaning when you are reading this statement. So in order to avoid plagiarism, you need to use a lot of English. Now when I say a lot of English, I do not mean complicated English. Okay, so and that the art of paraphrasing or avoiding plagiarism comes when you read a lot of papers. There is no other way. When you research and when you read a lot of paper, then only you'll be able to avoid. Okay, this is paraphrasing plagiarism example. Original work is this. Okay, now here is there is no citation. They have paraphrased. I mean, the structure of the work is changed, but citation is not there. The correct is this: structure is changed, as in the content is presented in such a way that it does not look like that it is copied, but the meaning is same plus a citation. Okay, all right. Now when we are talking about paraphrasing, how we can do paraphrase, now it's very important. Generally, I can tell you from the student's perspective also, that when we are doing literature review or when we are reading any paper or an article, we often get bored. Agree? I mean, it's okay, it's not to be bad to commit that, yes, we do get bored at times. So what happen is we just give a glance on the paper, or probably first couple of papers we easily understand, and then remaining papers, okay, we'll read it later. We just overthrew it, or even if we are reading, it's nothing is going into our head. So make sure that you understand, because when you will paraphrase it, when you will rewrite into your own language, it's very important that you get to know the meaning of the content. Please make sure of the key ideas, that what exactly this, like we did with that industrialization. So what exactly that paragraph is going to talk about? It is talking about pre industrialization, post industrialization, industrialization as a process. Take out key ideas and then write that in your own words. English is a vast language. It has ample number of words which can be substituted with one another. So then you write it in your own words. That writing in your own words would, you will also get a command on when you will read a lot. Now, why I say so? Upon doing it, you will get an idea that how different authors are writing. Okay, and then obviously, needless to say, that reference the work. This is an example of patchwork plagiarism. Now, wherein you have taken probably this content, this content, all the underlying content. They have taken it from the different sources, presented as a one. Okay, or none of the whatever the borrowed content is, this whatever is taken it from the different sources, it is not with the appropriate punctuations, or only one acknowledgement is given to the entire work, wherein different sources had been cited, different sources had been referred for this adaptation of the work. So this is a clear example of patchwork plagiarism. Okay, now here we'll take a 5 minutes break and then we'll quickly come back. Okay. Hello, everyone. So we are back. Just a quick reply to the query of AV. No, meaning should not be changed, AV. All right. Thank you so much. Yes, you will get the PPTs, Miss Sarata. Okay. Now we were talking about the examples of plagiarism. So now it is mosaic plagiarism. So when you talk about mosaic plagiarism, so basically, you have not. This is the original piece of source. You have not given the source basically. Okay, so couple of words also is been reflecting. So what writer b, this writer has borrowed that site variations are there and it has presented as its own work. Okay, that's mosaic one. Now accidental plagiarism is basically when, see, basically accidental plagiarism which just has happened but considered to be as plagiarism only. So original text is this. Okay, now here the rephrasing is there but not much. Okay, now couple of words here and there. There is no quotation of the work. There is no citation of the work. Just couple of word here and there changed. That's accidental. Now inaccurate plagiarism is, that is, when we discussed about when you do not appropriately give the author's detailed. Okay, all right. Now the ones basically who says does not have, maybe you have asked somebody to work on your statistical analysis, he or she will not be an author. And decide who is into the correct order of authors before you go for the publication. Okay. Now, self plagiarism, you all understand, you all know. This is basically comes into picture, particularly for the people who have a good publication history. Okay, basically your own integrity, research integrity get hinders. Salami slighting data also happen basically when you are using same. Somebody also asked me in the chat that when you're using same old material to publish it again and again, like same one research, and you are categorizing into, or you're using into for publication two or three papers, that actually happens. And also many journals they used softwares like authenticate, wherein they get to know that yes, your paper on similar theme is already being published. Similar theme is in similar work, paper is being already published. Okay, so that's disadvantage. Now contributor author plagiarism, basically you need to understand three things. Please pay attention to all the ones who are into the process of writing with their fellow colleagues. Author basically is the one who is doing the major work. Okay, he or she will be the one who will approve the final version of the work. Okay, and whatever research work is there, the accountability of that work, the responsibility of the work lies on the shoulder of the author. So the major hero of the research. Co-author. Co-author basically provides the supplementary role. Okay. Now, for example, a little bit contribution in the literature. Okay, or coordinating or collecting the data. Oh, sorry, coordinating the data of the statistical analysis. Like that's supplementing role. Okay. Now it comes as a contributor. So the contributor does not qualify as an author or as a co-author. Basically, he is the one who is not directly related into, research or data collection. Probably he'll help you find the funding agency. Okay. Once your work is done, he or she will do the editing or proofreading, probably help you in the technical writing. So let's say your work is ready and you ask that person to go through the paper and see if there are any grammatical errors. So any intellectual contribution is not there by the person. Understand? Again, I'm repeating. Author is the one who does the majority of the work. is responsible for the data and the coalition of the work is the main person who will approve the final manuscript. Manuscript, we say, unless the paper is not published, it is manuscript. Okay. Co-author is the one who is supporting the author, getting along with some sort of literature they, or adding in some points into the outline decided by the author, or coordinating with the analysis of the data and all that, and submitting it to the author, co-author. Contributor or probably wrote a section of research. Contributor is the one who is not intellectually contributing, as in when I say intellectually, as in directly related to the work itself. Probably he is, helping in proofreading or editing or technical support. That. Okay. Okay. Now going ahead, another one is outline plagiarism. So here is the outline plagiarism as we discussed, when you kindly adapt the same kind of outline. So here if you see in the both the examples, if you see here, so that there are section 3, 4, 5. Similarly, same. It's just that preparing for pet needs, preparing for need of pets, just shifting word from here and there remains same, rest remains same. Sections are same. Okay. Okay. Now coming to bibliography and references. It is important to understand because these things, referencing, proper, appropriate referencing, providing right kind of bibliography, helps you a lot to avoid plagiarism. And basically, this is the heart of your research when you are writing, particularly on your literature. So basically, whatever sources you have access to, you have access different sources. What are these sources? It also adds on to the authenticity of your work. Okay. Now, what's the difference between reference list and bibliography? References basically it includes only sources cited in your text as in-text citation, like within your text. Okay, when you're writing within your text. Now, bibliography basically the same format as a reference list. That means all the material which is used in the preparation of your work. It can be, any form of article which is not in the published form, basically in the form of cases or the video, any other material, or probably the last list, the list of your work by the end of your work. So any kind of work you have quoted, any kind of video case in your work, that also will be included in your bibliography. Okay. Now coming on to the different style of referencing. Okay. Now what do you do at last is this bibliography. Okay. Now first is your APA. When you're writing in-text citation as a references, so you just take the surname and the year like this. The surname of the author and the year, comma, year. When you're preparing the bibliography, your surname, initial, middle, date of published, this is the rule which is followed. It is mainly used in social science, arts and humanities work, research work. Similarly, for the Vancouver style, now what happened in Vancouver style is you assign a number to each reference by the end of it. Let's say number one, Dr. Mishra and Bhatnagar. Number two, Dr. Matthew and Dr. Siri. So instead of doing like this within the citation, within the text, you will just mention the number. So when we click at 4, we know that this is the complete detail of the work cited. Okay. Now, how by the end of the work, how do you do it? You do it by this surname, initial, title, and all that. Okay, which is mainly used in medicine or technology, engineering, pharmacology, biotechnology, all these researches. Okay. Now then comes Chicago style. In Chicago style also, you use the last name and the year of publication. It is mainly in historical researches, humanities, social sciences. Similarly, more or less similarly of like your APA. Okay. Then MLA style, where you take a bracket, the last name and the page number without punctuation. So there is no comma. Okay, there is no comma. All right, and the way it has been written in the bibliography list is this. Okay, now we are done with ethics. We are done with plagiarism. We are done with identifying, what are the different types of plagiarism. Referencing, we do it. Different style of referencing, we do got to know it. Now, how will you get to know that this particular work is plagiarized? Obviously, now why it's important for you? Because let's say you are in a process of writing and you don't want to plagiarize your work, but the work which you are referring from is highly plagiarized. How will you get to know? Okay, so for that, these are a couple of points which can be remembered. Like, you need to see that some is there any grammatical error, is there any spelling errors, you know you need to see that if the paper or if the work is following the same style of writing, or all of a sudden there is a language change, all of a sudden there is a grammatical change, quotations are not properly utilized, footnotes, whatever you give by the end of the paper, they are not related to the paper directly. Is there any change in the different style of words or the formats, or whatever arguments the paper is discussing upon, they are not matching upon, they are not representing the same theme. These are the ways by which you can actually identify any plagiarized work. Also, yes, you do get to know whether there is a plagiarism in the work or not by different softwares also, which we'll be talking about, by just by looking at the work. So if now all this will get to know if the work is directly copied. So whenever you are referring to any literature, please pay attention to these minute details. Okay. Now, couple of softwares we have included, which can be used to check the plagiarism. First is SafeAssign. Now, basically, it is based on unique text matching, which is basically, which match the algorithms of finding out the exact finding out the similarity between the paper you have submitted and the work from where you have taken the adaptation form. Okay, so this is the kind of report which comes out from SafeAssign play software. Then is Doclog, wherein you upload the your work, wherein extensive review happens from the large database which they have, and you get your plagiarized report if there is any. You need to create your ID or password. So first in your login, you upload and you download the report. Okay. Another one is Plagiarism Finder. So this is the way they give their report, like, how much is the total plagiarism, towards the word count of your report. They highlight the work and from where the work has been adopted. Generally similar kind of report, that what is the plagiarized content and from where the plagiarism content has been adapted from. Okay. It also detects the duplicate contents, not only using online tool, but also it on proprietary databases also, which has the proprietary databases which are being used in your document. Okay. Then another one is, couple of them are Grammarly, Paperwriter, Turnitin, DupliChecker. They all, that they are free. Basically, they are free. And another one is Turnitin, which is very popular. And Turnitin basically, it's very what do you say, the integral kind of software which tells you very minute plagiarism content as well. Okay, this is the report which you get from the Turnitin software. This is what you get on Grammarly, wherein this is the kind of report which you get, and highlighted areas from where the work has been, like, a bit unclear. There are words needs to be adjusted, the punctuation needs to be worked upon. How you can correct plagiarism, that also needs to be known, because We all know plagiarism is there. Somewhere or the other, we have adopted the work, but how can we correct it? Before writing, organize your source. Now, this way, what will happen is you will get hold of your citations. Your citations will not be lost on the way. Okay, whatever work you are referring to, organize that work. There are many software also, mainly Zotero, to organize your literature, by which you can actually keep a track of your sources. Because what happens is, while we are reading the literature or while we are collecting the data, we always are in a impression that we'll remember it. We'll know that this particular line is from this paper or this. But by the time it's time to convert that work into a report, it's humanly not possible to get hold of all the work which you have cited from different places. Keep track of your resources. Then make sure all your resources are credible. What I want to mention here is resources unlike Wikipedia or any random site which is publishing articles. Please don't do that. Make sure all your resources are credible enough. Then step two is definitely quote and paraphrase correctly. So I've given the example also. Proper citations, proper paraphrasing should be done in order to avoid plagiarism. Then cite your sources correctly. Okay, now when I say cite your courses correctly, that means firstly you should be known that which particular referencing style is being asked. Many journals they have a very peculiar, like every journal when you are willing to submit, they would ask you that APA needs to be followed, Vancouver needs to be followed, Chicago or Howard needs to be followed. So in that case, cite your sources correctly. All the author's name should be there. I mean, not in the index citation, referencing list. Index citation, different styles have different way to, mention all the authors. But please diligently follow the sources. Now, lastly, is checking your work. Run it through plagiarism checker, any software you can use, yes. Double check your citation. Any quotation is missing, question mark, comma, semicolon, colon, inverted commas, all it. All the in-text citation should be there. So before you submit, so see, it's not only you have copied the content from somewhere, it's about your spellings, grammatical errors, meaning of the content, sources, citations, everything. Okay, everything should be there. Now, proofreading is also a way by which you can avoid plagiarism, and it makes your paper, it makes your work more credible for the publication. So you can check all the grammatical errors. You can see that how my content is making sense. Are the ideas are being delivered appropriately? Correct grammar has been used. There is a consistency in my index citation, like somewhere I'm using APA, somewhere I'm using Vancouver. No, proofreading gives you a thorough glance on your work, that I'm following the same line of my writing, same systematic writing line. All this you'll get to do once you proofread your work. Okay? All right. Then, very important, with this, we'll end up our webinar today. Very important point is AI. Now, firstly, the question comes, is the use of AI is violation of the ethics, or it is unauthentic, or stuff like that? Many questions must have, because since AI is everywhere these days. Now, many journals, many universities, firstly have completely banned accepting the papers written with the help of AI. Okay, even when we check the students' assignments, if it has been written with the help of AI, students don't get to know it, but we get to know it, that how much it is, how much AI plagiarism is there. Okay. Certain institutions they allow the use of AI. Now there also is a catch. Now you can read the slides once they are with you, but listen to me. There is a catch. Yes, using AI tools for research writing is unauthentic. There are a couple of reasons for it. See, tools like ChatGPT, they are programmed tools. Okay, they understand the algorithms. They identify the patterns. Based on that, they create their writings. Now, I'll give you an idea that when you are writing with the help of ChatGPT or any AI tool, they identify the words and then they create a work. Now, whether that work makes sense or not, this is not the responsibility of the AI tool. Now, when we check the assignments of our students, many I have seen, many I have reported as well. In that case, what happens is that you have been given a report to write on a particular domain. You've done it with the help of ChatGPT. ChatGPT will bring different paragraphs all together into one work without identifying the appropriate meaning and the systematic flow in the writer. Anywhere, like you're talking about Zoom, you need to prepare a report on Zoom, the Zoom software app which we use. So anywhere the chat GPT tool or any other tool will find the pattern based on the Zoom usage. It'll include. Now many, they are basically, you can use it for paraphrasing, like somebody said on the chat right now. Again, the paraphrasing needs also to be glanced by a human eye. Okay. Second thing is that many times they do not or they may not include referencing or citations, which that, you know, doesn't make sense. Also, I have read AI generated work which does not make any sense at all. The keywords are there on which the work needs to be done, but the entire work does not make sense. So there are a lot of inconsistencies in the work. Okay. One very important thing is tool ChatGPT does not have very recent knowledge which you as a human mind can explore. So all the time which we say is that that we are using ChatGPT, they are software. Our over reliance on these software actually entitle us to make use of these tools, but without knowing that the most recent news, the most recent knowledge which could have greatly impacted my research is not there with these tools. So biggest flaw which I find is that lack of consistency, a lot of inconsistencies there, a lot of no sources, no citations. So for me and for the many universities, many journals, AI usage is considered as a plagiarism or an academic, highly offensive academic misconduct. It's very simple that you have not applied your brains, you have asked somebody who is non-human to do your work. Okay. All right. So this is for the webinar for today. Now we'll have the questions. Is ChatGPT is used helpful in paraphrasing? Now I'll tell you. Paraphrasing has a very hidden, has a very intact meaning, that the meaning of the content which you are paraphrasing should not change. Okay. So just for the purpose of that, you may use it depending upon the source where you are sending the work. If they do not consider, they do not accept AI plagiarist work, kindly avoid it as you may. Okay. Yes, you will get the PPT. I have discussed about Vancouver style. What percentage plagiarism can be used? Again, I think I have answered this question between the webinar guide. It depends upon this universities. They tell you that this much plagiarized work is okay, this much plagiarized work is okay. Rather, when you are sending your work to any journal submission, kindly avoid plagiarized work. Amol, I have told you how to avoid plagiarism. Paraphrasing, rephrasing, paraphrasing is the only key. Proper citations. when we review some paper, this always yes, Poonam, yes, it will show plagiarism because we often what see we have discussed so many types of plagiarism. We do not paraphrase it properly. Okay, fine. I have, taken the couple of words I've substituted and it is reworked. Okay, as you said, like different definitions are preferred, not no definition, not preferred change. It cannot be changed actually. There are things like scientific names which are personally work. Yes, exactly. No, no, no. See, in that case, what happen is that you can't change. Now, the only way is to use. If you have to use a lot of it, you can't. Avoid using these terms and names, but avoid using too many of them, or you may then source it. Okay, best journal to publish research papers. So yeah, this is a very vague question. I mean, there are too many domains. I mean, pharmacology, biotechnology, HR, management, finance, marketing. There are too many journals. Okay, Elizabeth, the Howard style is basically when you take author's name and initials, then you write the title, then you write the year just after the name, then title, then where it has been published. Mr. Babu, again, this is a very opinion based question that which kind of plagiarism. When I say universities have a different standard of acceptance level of plagiarism. Mr. Renga, I mean, see, I believe for the PhD scholars, go for the minimum level. Minimum as in you can go for even 0% also. When you are talking about research papers for general journals, they you need to be specific which journal you are sending to. Each journal has a different level of accepted level of plagiarism. Similarly, as a university, many journal they do not accept plagiarized work at all. Thank you so much. Can we use Quillboard or only? I answered this question, Soumya, only for a limited extent. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you. What role ethic committee of organization can play to? Firstly, they tell you that what level of plagiarism is there. Okay, and then they tell you what are the sources you can avoid using. So highlighting your plagiarism, and they ask you the explanation for the same as well. Such committee mainly approve the proposal but not sure after whether the same process get followed. See, approving proposal and approving thesis are the two different things, Mr. Kale. Okay. Thank you, Mohan. Thank you. See, basically the core journals basically are the ones who are, working on the that particular theme only. They do not work on. Basically, it is a very comprehensive database of papers of articles on the same theme. Okay, or very it is a very subjective kind of journals. How to write plagiarism journal free in your own word. I told you, paraphrase. For plagiarism check, yes, Kavita, you can definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Is the similarities plagiarism? I told you, Suneet, the entire webinar is on this only. Yes, Manisha, please go on. Thank you, everyone. MM Mahesh, there are softwares I have mentioned here. Thank you. I think, Manisha, if you do this much, you'll be sorted. Read as much as you can so that you get new style of writing. Dr. Razi, you can get in touch with me through the team. We'll surely be in touch. Thank you, Mr. Biju. Thank you so much. Yes, Elizabeth, we can get in touch. You can get in touch with the team. They can forward your case to me. Thank you. There are Amol in the webinar PPTs you'll find. Yes, Mr. Naveen, it is possible. My PhD thesis was 0% plagiarism. It is possible. Turnitin people are using a lot of universities and journal are they are relying very much on Turnitin these days. No, Syed, not all. Not for all the referencing. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for taking out your precious time on a weekend and have a wonderful time ahead. Have a wonderful weekend ahead. You have a yes, Aarti. You may. I mean, I think it's an. It's not free up to a limited usage. It's not free, but yes, anyone can use to monitor. Surely, yeah. Do we have any questions further? Naveen, you can get in touch with the team through them. We can, speak to each other directly. Thank you, Mr. Renga. Thank you so much. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you. Thank you. I'm hoping for a wonderful one, although it's nighttime here, but I'm sure that's weekend for all of you, majority of for you. Yes, Aarti, generally these kind of softwares are also with the libraries of the universities. So you can get in touch with your librarian if there are, because as per my understanding, all the universities they have these nowadays. They have plagiarism checker. Mr. Mule, the entire webinar is on how to remove plagiarism. I think you can get through the video of the webinar by paraphrasing, appropriately citing the sources and all. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, Elizabeth. Nice to know that you're in healthcare. My PhD was in healthcare industry, but in HR. Thank you so much, all. Thank you all for your wonderful time and patience. Okay, Miss. But in English, as there are so many researches, how to sentence can be written uniquely. I mean, there are. See, in English, I would say that like Hindi and in other language, English is also a very beautiful language, which allows you to scope to form a sentence. Like my name is Dr. Renu Mishra. People know me by the name of Dr. Renu Mishra, so I can't change my name, but I can change the way I tell my name to people. You know. So this will happen only when you'll read thoroughly. Mr. Nathan, self plagiarism also follows the same rule, like the way we reduce other kind of plagiarism. Also, do not forget to cite. Yes, ethics following it. See, obviously, when you're talking about research ethic or academic writing ethics, majority of the violation happens on the crowd of or happens on the round of plagiarism only, Mr. Razak. So yes, definitely, if you're not, and also one another facade is disclosing the confidentiality or privacy of your respondents. These two have been taken care well. Your ethics have been well followed. All right. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day ahead and wishing you all the success. We'll look forward to meet each other and the same in the next webinar, about which you'll all be notified soon. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.